Hello, this is the third video on civil communications. In the first one, we talked about what does civil communication mean. In the second video, we talked about how did we get to this place and what are some of the drivers making our communications less civil than I think we would like them to be. In this one, I want to talk about a way that we can become more civil communicators. And it really starts with being willing to invest some time in the communication process. We always seem to be in such a rush that we don't think through what others are saying, think through what we are about to say and the potential impact of what we say. So I think first of all we have to make sure we give communication its proper due in terms of the time commitment. Then I want to provide a little bit of context of what I'm going to say next. There's a concept called the ladder of inference, and it comes from he's now passed away. Chris Argyris was a professor at Harvard, and he came up with a concept called this ladder of inference. And what that ladder suggests is that all of us have this ladder in our brains, and we can all see the same thing happen. Could be recorded by an audio tape, videotape, but when we view it and perceive it and attach meaning to it, we do that in very unique ways. And it goes up this ladder that we have in our minds that is unique to us. It's based on how we were brought up, where we were educated, experiences we've had, groups we identify with. There's so many things that make us unique in who we are. And as a result, we attach meanings to things that we all observe in different ways. So that's sort of a backdrop to keep that in mind, that what's going on in one person's head is not the same in another. And then when we try to articulate something, we're speaking from how we're interpreting based on our unique ladder of inference, and others are not going to interpret it the same way. So with that said, I think that we're fairly skilled at just having conversation with each other. Even in this age of technology, we can still have a conversation. Through schooling, we've been trained in debate. So trying to understand why another person may be wrong and to pounce on that vulnerability point to prove them wrong and perhaps us right. That's the essence of a debate, where you're trying to come out on top. In addition to trying to give more time to the communication process, I would argue that we should spend some more time in dialogue. And that's a very respectful form of communication. It's also quite different from debate. So in debate, you may try to see where a person's wrong. In dialogue, you try to understand why a person thinks they're right. And the questions you ask are to gain a more complete understanding of why they believe what they believe. Essentially, when you ask certain kinds of questions, gee, what makes you conclude that? Have you considered, if this were true, would this change your opinion in any way? So when you ask those kind of questions, you're essentially asking people to expose their ladder of inference to you. You're asking them to expose their critical thinking to you. So by asking those kind of questions, being engaged, showing interest, you're showing respect for others, that you care about their opinions. You want to understand their opinions. I mean, that's really at the core of civil communication, trying to be respectful and trying to understand others and not condemn people, not call them names, not trying to tell them why they're wrong. And another way you demonstrate that is by then how you share information. So if we're trying to follow this process of dialogue, we would not just say why we believe that, but would give the reasons for it. It's baseball season, and I've been a lifelong Pirate fan in Pittsburgh, and it's hard to be a Pirate fan right now because they don't spend any money and they're just a poorly run organization, which is very disheartening. So I could say, oh, the Pirates are a terrible organization. That's an opinion. But if I wanted you to see my critical thinking on how I've got to that place, I would say more along the line, the Pirates are a terribly run organization. It seems like they're not attracting um, good talent to be in leadership positions, to make good baseball decisions. It seems like the folks that are put in place are making financial decisions. As a result, they're having a hard time identifying talent. Not only don't they identify talent, when they bring people on board, they can't develop them to take them to another level. So I'm trying to disclose my critical thinking process and what's kind of forcing me or making me say they're a poorly run franchise. That is also showing respect for others in that you're taking time to share your thinking with them. You're not just suggesting an opinion without any backing for it. And then hopefully that person would maybe probe a little bit and ask you some further questions to get you to elaborate even more. So when we spend some time on the communication process, and I realize dialogue does take time, but many times we need to be willing to give that time. And we need to be willing to share our perspective more fully, even if it makes us feel a little more vulnerable and that we're disclosing more of ourselves. And we need to take the time to be more active listeners, to truly understand others and come at it from the vantage point of, I would like to understand why they believe this, rather than the debate vantage point of, I'm waiting to see the mistake they will make or the flaw in their thinking that I can now pounce on and show them that my thinking is superior. We do enough of that. Let's try to practice a little more dialogue. I think it will go a long way in helping us become more civil communicators. Have a great day.